That's it.
For
Sure.
October 18th, 2017, Board of Supervisors, would you all please rise and join me in the pledge to the flag? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'll ask for public comment on agenda items. If you have any, please state your name and address. Seeing none, I'll move on to announcements. I will announce we will be holding an executive session to discuss real estate matters after tonight's meeting. Moving forward to the minutes for September the 20th, 2017. Have either of you gentlemen had a chance to review them? Do you have any additions or corrections?
Read them, found them in the work, make a motion to approve.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, ayes have it, thank you. Moving forward to confirmed appointments. Evie Shermer, Pennridge Community Center. Evie here?
Not here.
Not here. Okay. We will table her. She will have to reconfirm the next one, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Can you
Next.
speak up, please?
He just wants one.
Can you speak up when you talk, please?
I don't think these are on.
You can't hear?
No, can't hear at all.
How about now?
No better.
That's because of you. Frank?
Yeah.
Hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. You can hear. Can you hear, Bob?
I can hear you.
Okay. Vera Cole, Conservation Committee.
Hi.
Good evening.
Hi. Where's the best place to stand for the mic? Over here?
Yep, right there
Okay.
by the table.
I'd like to request that this be read into the minutes, please. My name is Vera Cole, and I live at 2045 Upper Rockydale Road. I am presenting this comment tonight on behalf of the West Rockhill Conservation Committee, the members of which are David Collingwood, Karina Reiling, Michael Schreimeyer, Elizabeth Branson, and myself, Vera Cole. The West Rockhill Conservation Committee was founded in 1997 to monitor land conservation opportunities and initiate conservation efforts to preserve properties in the township. West Rockhill Township is currently considering a request to rezone a 12-acre parcel of land from residential conservation to extraction. According to our township zoning ordinance, the purpose of residential conservation is to, quote, promote low-intensity rural development and resource protection areas, and to preserve areas of unique natural value and beauty. The purpose of extraction zoning is, quote, extractive operations that deplete and consume land areas. As the West Rockhill Township Conservation Committee, we feel duty-bound to express our unanimous opposition to this zoning change. In doing so, we wish to make the following points. Number one, the residents of West Rockhill Township have twice voted to approve tax increases for the preservation of open space. For the township to barter away natural resources that are already protected by residential conservation zoning would be a deep betrayal of the residents' expressed priorities and commitment to the preservation of natural resources. Number two, if the township were to approve the zoning change in exchange for concessions, as has been suggested, or in return for favors to the township, this would appear to be in clear violation of the Pennsylvania State Constitution Environmental Rights Amendment. And that amendment says, the people have a right to clean air, pure water, and to the preservation of the natural, scenic, historic, and aesthetic values of the environment. Pennsylvania's public natural resources are the common property of all the people, including generations yet to come. As trustee of these resources, the Commonwealth shall conserve and maintain them for the benefit of all the people. In a 2017 decision, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court states that the Commonwealth, quote, may not approach our public natural resources as a proprietor, and instead must at all times fulfill its role as a trustee. Under the Pennsylvania State Constitution, this township is obligated to act as a trustee of these resources, not a proprietor of them. Special treatment or trading natural resource protection for concessions or favors would expose the township to court challenge and legal costs on many possible fronts. Number 3, we draw your attention to several points made by the Bucks County Planning Commission in its review of the zoning request provided in writing to the township on April 5th. The Bucks County Planning Commission finds that this zoning change request is not consistent with the comprehensive plan. This parcel is in a resource protection area. These lands require special protection because they contain critical natural resources. The Commission says, quote, "It should be noted that allowing the proposed expansion would place quarry operations closer to a tributary into Ridge Valley Creek, designated as high-quality waters by the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection." B, the Bucks County Planning Commission warns that if approved, quarry operations would expand in the very areas where underground water supplies are most limited in the township, describing waters in these geological formations as limited and, quote, "very limited." The Commission notes that private on-lot wells serve as the primary source of drinking water for almost 80% of our township's population. And C, the Bucks County Planning Commission writes that the applicant, quote, "appears to have addressed these groundwater concerns to some extent by adjusting well protection areas required as part of the 1992 agreement," end quote. And then notes that West Rockhill Township itself provides an additional 500 feet of well protection around the site. In other words, this agreement holds the township and its taxpayers responsible for well damage caused by quarry operations. Furthermore, the Bucks County Planning Commission questions the agreement's well protection coverage for expanded quarry operations and recommends consideration of a new agreement specific to this parcel. All in all, the proposed zoning change raises serious uncertainty about responsibility for well protection and increases the township's exposure to responsibilities and causes for damage, including risk to public health, which the township did not cause. And finally, 4, land areas that are, quote, "depleted and consumed" are lost for generations. The damage to natural resources and the risk to public health are not readily reversible or corrected, no matter what agreements or written obligations may be in place. The location of the quarry expansion is perilously close to precious wetlands and Ridge Valley Creek tributaries. Currently in remarkably good condition, putting these critical natural resources in harm's way would be an unacceptable and unnecessary risk to community health and well-being. We thank you for your consideration of these factors and urge you to act in the best interest of the township's residents, taxpayers, and future generations, and say no to the Naisville Materials application for a zoning change. Thank you.
Okay, we'll accept that into the township minutes. Thank you, Mrs. Cole. I should rephrase that. I'm not sure. Vera.
Thank you.
Next on the confirmed appointment is Bob Rambo.
Thank you. As you know, I was here last month addressing what I consider and many consider transparencies or lack thereof transparencies in the way this township is governed. And it got a little bit heated debate.
Speak louder.
I was here last month.
Sorry.
We need a new system. I'm sorry.
Go behind the table.
The
monitor.
microphone is right up there.
Pick your voice up here.
Can you hear me now?
No.
Okay. I'll try to repeat this. I was here last month talking about the lack of transparency that I and other people feel goes on in this township. Specifically, I was dealing with the issue of the Holiday House parking lot that H&K paid at no expense to this township. The number that was thrown out and bandied around was $73,000. It's a lot of money. That's a lot of money for a company to give as a corporate gift when they have an application in to change the zoning in this township. It doesn't look right, doesn't feel right, doesn't smell right. So, we had our discussion about it. People have their view about it, I have my view about it, and others have their view. After the meeting that we had, I asked for freedom of information, and I got it. It took about 30 days to get something back from the township. It was very detailed, and I thank you. Mary, I'm not sure if it comes from your office or it comes from the township.
Greg consulted me that it came from the township.
It comes from the township. Well, it was interesting. I got the majority of what I asked for, but I got a surprise in the package. And I thank you for that. In one hand, the other hand, I don't. I get a package from H&K. It's now public information, a formal corporate giving documentation packet that goes on. It talks about local donations and so forth. Well, something else popped up. We not only have the Holiday House that the quarry donated, we now have trails in the James Memorial Park that were repaved and never discussed in this township. They are not on our books. What happened to them? Can you enlighten us as to why and how we're getting all these donations from H&K Quarry in the past year, year and a half? When did this happen? When was the parking lot paved here? There's no dates in their formal declaration. There's no amounts of money. I know from watching the video that Sue did a joint wreck, the $73,000 is now a real $52,000, which is still a lot of money. It's an awful lot of money. And that information came from where?
That information came from Sellersville, because Sellersville went back to H&K, unbeknownst to me. They went back anyhow and got an in-kind amount of money that they could put on the books. And it came back at $52,000.
And it is on the books that we're partially responsible for the Holiday House. Okay. Now,
Well,
No, we're not. We are not.
I understand it's a joint venture, but we're socially involved with the Holiday House. As far as tax dollars go to the house.
It's not, yes, tax dollars go to the house, but just so we understand, joint venture is a private business term. What it is, it's a municipal authority that was formed by both West Rockhill and Sellersville a long time ago. But once established, a municipal authority is a separate legal entity that's owned or is not required, or it's not necessary for them to take direction from either township. They're completely independent.
Let's jump to the James Memorial Park and the paving that was done in the Memorial Park. Do we know when that was done? H&K didn't put it in their documentation. Do we know when it was done?
August 2016.
August 2016. 4 months before they filed an application to change the zoning.
It's about 100 feet, wasn't it?
It was just a small parcel around the corner through the woods where our guys couldn't finish because they ran out of time.
They did it and they donated it. Then they filed an application to change the zoning. This whole thing is chaining. It's not looking good. Do we understand that it's not looking good? Did anybody approve that? Did the Board of Supervisors approve that paving?
The manager doesn't, he can approve anything up to $10,000 when something's done.
And you're saying it's under $10,000?
Yeah, that was like $3,500 what our estimate was at the time, something like that.
Approximately.
Is it on the books? As a donation?
No.
As a service? Do you think it should be? Do you need to ask your accountant? I think you do.
We will talk to our auditor.
Okay. So because it was $3,500, not over $10,000, the Board of Supervisors did not have to do this. You know, if this township, if we look at the Holiday House and we look at what H&K is doing, if this board would have raised our taxes, and nobody likes raised taxes, 1 mil for 1 year, it would have generated $76,000. And I got those numbers from our tax collector. We wouldn't have this issue that we're having here today of transparency.
Oh, I think we would. I think you would have found something else you wanted to hang your hat on. Sorry.
Oh, you want to get personal?
Well, you get
I'm not
personal.
going to, not to get personal with you
Yeah,
last week.
Yes, you
Let
did.
him make his comment.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Jim, that's the, no, I'm not getting in the gutter with you.
No.
The transparency issue between what's going on in this paving, I don't know how this board can vote. You should recuse yourself from voting on this application and let the process take over. It looks flawed.
I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt your public comment, but the Board of Supervisors doesn't have the ability to delegate zoning ordinance adoption to anyone other than the Board of Supervisors. That's what the law provides, it's what they're elected for. There's no mechanism in the law that would allow that.
Well, the last thing I want to say, that I really hope that somehow you come up with a way to clear this up so we can have a transparent government. I was saying to somebody the other day, I would like to go home from one of these meetings happy sometime and not aggravated. No, I don't want to aggravate you. I don't want to be aggravated. I like to live in a nice, quiet township where things run smoothly. And I hope in the future we can do things more transparency, whether it's $3,500 or $10,000. I do understand corporate giving, and I appreciate corporate giving, but not to this extent, and not in the way that it was handled. We need to find another way to get this matter solved correctly and not allow this rezoning. Thank you.
Okay, moving forward, Anthony Vogner, next.
Hello, Boyd.
Hello.
I want to speak about H&K and their rezoning application.
Tony, can't hear you.
Stand in the
There's a mic in the middle too. It's up to you which one you're more comfortable with.
This one's good. How about this? Everybody hear me?
Yes.
In regards to the H&K rezoning, and I want to specifically talk about the water issue. And, you know, it's never been the township's job to inform the residents. It's always been, you know, the residents' job to inform themselves. And that's why I'm here tonight, because I want to talk about the situation that I've had in the past with water and another quarry. You know, H&K has a plan for handling the repercussions of the project with dry wells and adding arsenic removal systems. But I don't understand how that's acceptable of a proposal knowing that that could happen. I don't understand that. And, you know, H&K, Dave Scott said that he'll maintenance a new well and the system for 2 years. But I don't understand, as a homeowner, why a homeowner has to be burdened with that. The maintenance of it, what have you. I mean, it's another cost that, you know, they're benefiting, and then you get stuck with a new well that you're stuck with the maintenance of it. You know, DEP has failed in many areas in regards to M&M. Okay, you know, and I'm not getting off on that. They have plenty of violations down there, and you know that. And DEP is a mismanaged group of people, and there's a lack of manpower. We all know that. And the thing is that you know, I would ask the board to uphold their oath and serve the people as the elected positions. And you cannot put a money value on somebody's health. And the thing is that people don't understand that clean water is not a replenishable resource. It's not. You can't, I mean, Jay, you work in wastewater and clean water, you know that. And I've worked there too. I know what the deal is. And I want you to consider that aspect of it. And, you know, and a friend of mine, Mark Lipke, has a well problem too. And, you know, and if he can speak about it too, I'd like for you to hear that. I think it's important that you know that there's a water problem. So, Mark, can you?
Yes. Thank you. I was actually asked to speak for a moment on the Environmental Rights Amendment tonight. But as I was coming down here, I was thinking about my father, who used to be on the zoning hearing board here, and also Jeff Markley, who was a good friend. He was my sister's first boyfriend when she was 16 years old. So, and these are good people. These are good people. People that we all value, people that have made a tremendous contribution to this community, and the contribution to the community was about preservation of West Rockhill as we know it today. It wasn't about preservation of mining. That's not what Jeff was about. That wasn't what my father was about. It was preservation of the heritage of what we see going on at my farm up the street. It's the red brick farm up on Ridge Road. It's now the farm it was back in 1850, the Hirschberg farm. And that's a lot of what the preservation is that we want to do here, and I think you guys would agree with that. The supervisors over the years have done a wonderful job of preserving this community. And I think you all value the job that the supervisors and Jeff Markley and my father have all done in preserving the community. And I know that that's your spirit, and it's not mining that we want to preserve, but I was asked to speak for just a moment about the Environmental Rights Amendment. And this is huge, the Environmental Rights Amendment. In 1971, the Pennsylvania legislature amended the Constitution to protect our right to clean air and clean water. And you read it, but because of the importance of this amendment, let me just read it again. It has to do with the discussion that we're having here tonight. In Article 1, Section 27, the people have a right to clean air, pure water, and to the preservation of the natural, scenic, historic, and aesthetic values of the environment. Pennsylvania's public natural resources are the common property of all the people, including generations yet to come. As trustees of these resources, the Commonwealth shall conserve and maintain them for all of the benefit of all the people. And we're in a Commonwealth, and you are the agents of the Commonwealth. And so you, as the agents of the Commonwealth, are the trustees to protect our right to clean air and clean water. And so our request to you is to stand with us, to stand beside us, not because I'm feeling like there's an opposite side thing going on here. It should be all one. It should be all one. And the Constitution of Pennsylvania calls for it to be all one. And you probably too know, and I'm sure you know, about the Robinson Township decision, and that was in 2013, and that set aside the legislature's attempt to void local zoning so that they could have put a gas well 200 feet from here. So in that Robinson Township decision, that upheld the Environmental Rights Amendment. And then again, in 2016, in the Environmental Defense Foundation decision, where the Pennsylvania legislature was taking money from their proceeds from the gas leasing, and they were putting it in the general fund. It was supposed to go right into the environmental funds. And so that too, under the environmental, was found unconstitutional under the Environmental Rights Amendment. It's a powerful amendment. And that's why, this is all changing, by the way. The Environmental Rights Amendment was passed in 1971. It wasn't until the 2013 decision in Robinson Township that it really began to come unto its own. And so all these people, all we're doing here is saying, be our trustees. Stand with us. That's all. Just stand, don't be on the opposite side of the fence. I mean, we see so much division. We see so much division today. This is not the time for division. This is not a mining community. This is time for unity. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Okay, next on the agenda for confirmed appointment is Vera Cole and Marty Simon.
Hi, I'm My name is Vera Cole, and I still live at 2045 Upper Rocky Dale Road. My husband is Marty Simon, and we present this as a joint personal statement. When we first heard that the quarry was seeking a zoning change so that it could expand operations, we weren't concerned. Residents of the township have voted twice to approve tax increases to protect open space. Our township office educates and encourages clean water protection on a range of fronts, from rain gardens to reduce your use of herbicides and pesticides to best practices for businesses. The township plans carefully for stormwater management. And like many others, we pay tens of thousands of dollars for a sand mound septic system that must now be pumped every 3 years. The township, it seems, is clearly committed to the responsible management and protection of our water resources. We'd have much to lose and little to gain from changing a parcel from residential conservation to extraction. It wouldn't even be a consideration, and clearly it was a non-starter. Well, we've learned a lot since then, and that's why we are here tonight. First of all, the more Marty and I learned, the more incredulous the situation seemed. When the quarry bought this property, it was already zoned residential conservation. It even had a deed restriction on it saying that it could not be used for excavation. So from the minute the quarry bought this property, they knew that using it for quarry operations was not allowed. Secondly, problems with the existing quarry were far worse than we realized. We hear the blast and our house shakes, but we do not know the extent to which neighbors' wells had already been damaged. And filings with the township. The quarry itself reports 15 contaminated wells in the previous year alone. Even more shocking has been learning about the number of families in our area who haven't been able to drink their own well water for years because of contamination from quarry activities. Like, why on earth would we want more of this? It's been over a year since the quarry filed its application to amend the zoning map and comprehensive plan. What looked to us as a very clear and easy no, obviously is not. So why is that? Several ideas have emerged. One, the quarry will win in the long run, no matter what we do. Better to get as many concessions out of them as we can, no sense fighting. Two, the quarry does the township lots of favors, and keeping those favors coming is good for the township. Three, some of the decision makers have long-standing business and perhaps personal relationships with quarry management. It's a buddy thing. Before addressing these perceptions, Marty and I want you to know that we believe the process is working. We trust that nothing is decided yet and that you are listening. For more than 20 years, we've had our family and business in West Rockhill Township. We have confidence in the individuals and institutions that serve our community. At this juncture, we are counting on the Board of Supervisors and Planning Commission to act on behalf of the best interest of the residents of this township. You've never given us reason to expect anything less. We love it here and we appreciate your work. We believe that any of you have personal relationships or business that would prevent you from acting in an unbiased manner and considering only the well-being of the township in this decision, you would honorably recuse yourself or take whatever actions may be legally appropriate. Having said this, we can see that you're in a tough spot. By many accounts, the quarry can be a powerful and intimidating force. In recent months, we've learned about the court battle years ago that led to the quarry operating in our township in the infamous 1992 agreement. Now the quarry is asking for a zoning change and an amendment to our comprehensive plan. So far, it seems that you and the Planning Commission have done things right, following the rules carefully to be sure the request is given due process so that there'll be no arguments about that after the fact. This is very important, and we thank you for that. Why would a quarry buy a property it could not use except for its supreme confidence in being able to force a zoning change whenever it wanted? In the face of this pressure, we would remind you that the authority, the power, is actually in your hands. You don't have to do this. Saying no to this zoning change is what the residents of this township want, and it is clearly within the township's authority. It is the correct, simple, and least cost way forward. We see no basis for this idea that the, quote, quarry is going to win anyway. The circumstances are very different now than they were this time in 1992. The township has solid planning and zoning in place now. The quarry bought this parcel when knowing it was zoned residential conservation. This fact is cut and dried. The township has no obligation to change any zoning for anyone. Secondly, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court issued a broad ruling this summer in strong support of the state's Environmental Rights Amendment, saying that the government, including municipalities, is to act as a trustee of natural resources and has a duty to prohibit their degradation or depletion. And regarding favors, the quarry does for the township, and we all do favors for the township, right? We all do. Corporate giving is great. I bet every person in this room has given to the township in one way or another. But regarding the favor the quarries does for the township, any appearance that this zoning decision is a tit-for-tat arrangement opens a real can of worms in terms of equal protection. If another landowner paved a swimming pool parking lot and then dropped off a proposal to rezone a property from residential conservation to extraction, would it be approved? Under the Constitution, all need to be treated similarly. If this zoning change is approved, then the township better be prepared to approve every other zoning change requested on equally poor grounds. And finally, approving this change could look a lot like spot zoning, which is unlawful in Pennsylvania. This proposal is not consistent with the comprehensive plan. It benefits a few landowners while creating negative impacts for surrounding landowners. It affects a small area, and it will provide private rather than public benefit. So our point is this: in today's world, there seems to be little basis for this mindset that the quarry will win anyway. It's just the opposite. We believe that approving this zoning change would put the township in far greater legal jeopardy than simply saying no. We know recent local history and current official filings tell us a quarry expansion will contaminate more residential wells and will lower groundwater levels. It will put wetlands and local waterways at risk. It will expose our residents to untold public health risk and our township to financial liability. We do not want this, and it's entirely avoidable. Approving this zoning change would benefit a very few while harming and endangering many. We're asking you to use the power and authority vested in you to say no. We know the quarry can be intimidating. We're here to tell you we've got your back. The Planning Commission will make its determination at some point, but the final decision rests with you. We hope our comments here have been helpful. Thank you for your service to our community, and we appreciate your somber consideration of the decision before you. Thank you.
Okay. What do you want to do?
Copy of her letter to record of the minutes. Same way with your over report.
Thank you.
Okay, moving forward to committee reports. Next on the agenda is the Planning Commission. I don't think there was a Planning Commission? No.
Meeting was canceled.
Meeting was canceled.
Not
Okay.
in the report.
Thank you, Chris. Moving forward, next on the agenda here is the Comprehensive Planning Committee report. Mr. DeVol.
Okay, the plan's moving along well. We have had excellent response on the questionnaire. And I think regularly we got about 800, 900 responses.
Approximately, yes.
Yeah. And they've been very thorough, and Bucks County is in the process of tabulating all that. At the next meeting, we'll get an understanding of what that is. And as time goes on, we'll expose what the data includes. The last meeting, we spent a lot of time talking about the population, who they are, where they work, how old they are, how young they are, to get a better feel for what our atmosphere is and what the people are here and what we might expect coming here in the next 10, 15 years, 20 years. So I think it's moving along well. We have a really good committee, cohesive, debatable, very debatable, and it's good. So I'm pleased with the way it's going.
Okay. Any questions? Okay.
And just one comment, as time goes on, we will obviously be considering the issue of presenting an issue relative to the whole issue of the quarry and zoning going forward.
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept the comments made by Mr. DeVol for the Comprehensive Planning Committee.
I'll second.
Motion's been made in second. All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Next on the agenda is Park and Rec. Mr. Strobel, are you here?
Yes, good evening.
How are you?
Okay.
Good.
Our main talk was the September Fest, which was a good outing for us. It was a little warm, but we had a lot of people come out. It was pretty much on the same attendance as it has been for the last 2 years, which is a bit down from the past years. So we had extra food again. When it comes to monies, again, we made about $1,500 again, like we did last year. I guess I'm allowed to say that. I don't know.
Sure.
Okay.
Public record.
The one of our discussions too for September Fest would be on the food line. We're looking for some new ideas. It seems like some people didn't like, again, the flow of the people and so and so. It's a bit warm in the back for the people doing the food and the serving, so maybe we need to shift things around. What do you think, Jay?
You want to take a look at it?
Yeah, we have to look at the different flow maybe. That was our main discussion, was on September Fest. And again, we talked about the plan for the park in general, the master plan. And we're almost there with Judy. We'll be finishing that up. We're going to look at the survey next meeting, which the township issued, and that's going to answer some of our questions too, on population, aging, just how many children are coming. I mean, I'm getting the impression that a lot of the kids who come to our September Fest are not even from our area.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to be one of these festivals where it's for the township, but it's from the outsider coming in, because it's a free outing. Because others don't really do that as a free outing. So if you have any ideas, come to Park and Rec and feed us ideas on the food, on the flow, any ideas. That's about what I have.
Yeah, Judy, the picture. I want everyone to take a look. This is the Compassionate Friends Garden that we were talking about 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really come a long way. I'm really proud of what this group's done. And Bob, with your help, they've really going forward. So there's a lot of new flowers coming in over the next couple of weeks for a lot of evergreens for winter. They still have their statue that has to come in yet, but everything else is pretty much complete. I see people there every day enjoying their lunch, bringing in their kids, bringing their pets, sitting around and just looking out over the pond. So,
Very nice.
yeah. So thank you, Bob, for all the effort.
It's a nice job, Bob.
And I'll tell you how many people, and I go to the park maybe every week or so or more, and I see, moms with their kids. And the kids will go over to the area now where you can sit. And some of the kids even how peaceful it is, it's really a nice spot. I thought they did a great job.
Beautiful job.
That's great.
Beautiful job, Bob.
And you know what? It didn't cost anything. It's all
Donated.
donated by people associated with the garden people, which is a good group.
Judy, you have a question?
I just wondered when the individual, aren't there gonna be individual plaques?
There are. They'll go around the base underneath the seating. There'll be a couple of weeks though. They'll be coming in. There'll be plaques with gold lettering on them for the names.
Now, how about the statue?
The statue was held up in customs in San Francisco by the FDA, so it must be something to do with a spotted lantern fly or something like that.
Oh, okay.
They have to check to make sure there's no bugs or anything in the crating and all that, so it should be coming in a month or so.
But all the people walking in the park, it's really become a point of attention. It's done well.
And also, as far as the park goes, we have a get fit with the dock walk tomorrow night, and then one in 2 weeks on November 2nd, I think it is.
Yeah, it's true.
That'll be the last one for the year, right?
All right.
Yeah. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Bob, I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you to the Park and Rec Committee and yourself and all the volunteers that have volunteered to put the September Fest on and make it a reality. I think it is something that people don't realize how much time and effort is put into it. From our volunteers that cook, to the volunteers that park cars, to months and months and months of planning ahead of time. It's a difficult job to do and pull off every year, and I just want to say thank you to you and the Park and Rec Committee.
Okay, and I think we all thank you.
Okay, moving forward, first I'll entertain a motion for
I'll make a
approval.
motion.
Motion's been made for approval of the Park and Rec. Second, by Don, all those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, okay. Moving forward, Conservation Committee.
You have a copy of the July minutes, review report, other than one item to talk about the executive session.
Okay. We don't need to have approval of minutes in this, correct?
Look for a motion to approve minutes as presented.
There is none.
The minutes are here.
Okay,
All right, I'll second.
okay. All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Moving forward, commission reports, police report. Chief Blake, are you here? There you are. How are you?
Good, thanks.
I'd just like to say, Bob,
Oh.
the root beer floats were great that day. There's a lot of people working hard there. I just came to have root beer floats and ride the train with my kids, so. But it's always a good time. This is the police commission report for police activities for September 2017. You'll see it listed for October, but we're always a month behind. So the police department responded to 387 calls for service. Of those calls, 169 were in East Rockhill and 218 were in West Rockhill. The department handled 35 traffic crashes, 15 crashes in East Rockhill, 20 crashes in West Rockhill, 17 were reportable crashes, and 18 were non-reportable crashes. When I say reportable and non-reportable, that's just the way they're classified with PennDOT. So a reportable crash would be a crash where a vehicle was towed and or someone was injured. A non-reportable crash doesn't meet that criteria, but there's still a internal report done. Pennridge Regional Police Department officers responded to 6 Part 1 crimes and 42 Part 2 crimes in September, totaling 48 crimes. Part 1 crimes are also known as the index crimes, or the violent crimes. These crimes include homicide, sexual assault, robbery, aggravated assault, burglary, theft, auto theft, and arson. In West Rockhill Township, the following crimes had occurred: sex offense against a minor, a fraud case, 2 cases of theft of $200 and over, a retail theft case, 2 trespass cases, 4 criminal mischief cases, 2 harassment and stalking cases, 3 dog law violations, 1 DUI, 1 cruelty to animals case, 2 cases of disorderly conduct, and 1 narcotics sale. In East Rockhill, there was a $200 and over theft, a under $50 theft, 2 fraud cases, 4 criminal mischief cases, or narcotics possession, 2 DUIs, 2 underage drinking, 3 disorderly conducts, 2 harassment, 1 unauthorized use of an auto, 3 dog law violations, and 5 ordinance violations. The following charges were filed in September: 1 bad check, 1 criminal mischief, 1 underage drinking, 1 felony retail theft, 1 unauthorized use of auto, 3 DUI cases, or arrest, 1 simple assault, 1 harassment and stalking, 1 possession of drug paraphernalia, 1 possession of methamphetamines, 3 dog law violations, 1 public drunkenness, and 5 disorderly conducts. Officers conducted 165 traffic enforcement details, 7 of those on Old Bethlehem Pike, and issued 11 verbal traffic warnings, 37 citations, 41 written warnings, and conducted 332 business checks. We had a mix-up detail, which is our motor carrier enforcement program. That was on September 20th. 13 vehicles were inspected. 5 were put out. 5 were out of service violations. 4 of those 5 were placed out of service. Administratively, we met with Pennridge High School staff. And I just want everybody to know that the drug take-back is on October 28th. There's 2 locations in West Rockhill, 1 at the police station and 1 at Grandview Hospital, and that's from 10 to 2. Also, I don't know if the gentleman was here last month. In my report, there was 21 Part 1 crimes and 23 Part 2 crimes, which that's a high amount of Part 1 crimes for this community. And he had asked what it was like the year prior, so I went back and pulled that, and I don't see him in here. But a year ago, August of 2016, we had 8 Part 1 crimes and 34 Part 2 crimes, totaling 42 crimes. In August of 2017, we had 21 Part 1 crimes and 23 Part 2 crimes, totaling 44 crimes. So we average about 40, 45 crimes. It's just that last month we had a high amount of Part 1 crimes, and that's because of all the thefts that we had, receiving stolen property, those types of cases. So I don't know why that occurs. Crime's cyclic in nature sometimes. So, you know, you have ratchet burglaries and not have any burglaries for a long time. So that's it. Any questions? Please come to the police department meeting. We meet the fourth Wednesday of every month. If you guys could all come there, that'd be great. I'll supply coffee. Please come.
Root beer float?
So, root beer float. Yeah, I'm lonely. If you have any issues in the township, please stop by the police department.
I would like to commend one of your officers. I didn't get his name about a week or so ago. He went down our road. I was out along the road working. He went down the road fairly fast following a vehicle. About 45 minutes later, he came back up. I was still working outside. He stopped. He pulled over. He says, "I'm sorry. I didn't go down the road fast because I wanted to go fast. I was following that car. I was after them."
Oh, okay.
And I said, I sort of figured that. I said, "Thanks for letting me know." I said, "I didn't think you were just driving fast for no reason at all." But it was
Thank
nice
you.
of him to stop by and just explain himself. I appreciate it.
What road's that you live on, sir?
Thousand Acre.
Okay, thank you.
Willard Gerhart, Thousand Acre.
I have a question,
Mhm.
Trish Erlinger, 410,000 Acre Road. What is that take back? What is that about?
Twice a year, through an effort with the DEA and Bucks County District Attorney's Office, they do a drug take-back, not only in our department, but departments in Bucks County. And you can bring, any unused prescriptions, over-the-counter medicines and take them to the station. But we also have the kiosk at the station. You can come anytime, Monday through Friday, or, if it's after hours, just pick up the blue phone, and officer will come back and meet you there, and, you can dispose of it there. You really shouldn't be disposing of any unused medicines, in the water system. That's not a good idea. We're just throwing them out in the trash, which will go into the water system, or just keeping them around because sometimes they just wind up in the wrong hands. So, burn the police station. If by some chance you can't get to the police station, call an officer, will come and take them and we'll dispose of them. So they offer those twice a year in October and April. They'll do a big push for a take back. So we'll collect it all year round. So we've been collecting things in our kiosks, drugs in our kiosks since April. So they'll weigh those as as our take back event, along with the items that we receive on that date too.
What do you do with them? Just curious.
The county takes them and they incinerate them.
Chief, how do you handle the privacy? If it's a prescription drug that you're not using anymore, do
We-
you put it in a Ziploc bag, or is that?
No, you don't. You can take the label off. We just put it in the kiosk. We don't even look at it. It's sealed, and then it goes to the county, and it's sealed in the box there. I don't think they're opening it, so there's just so much of it. Some people worry about that, and they peel the name and label off. Yeah, but we don't. Honestly, it gets filled probably once a week. We have to empty it. So, we don't look at it.
Excuse me, sir, can I have your name? The first gentleman that made a comment.
Oh, Bob Rambo.
No.
Willard Gerhart,
And where do you live?
218 Thousand Acre Road.
Thank you very much.
You have a question, ma'am?
Yeah, I'm Kathy Gerhart, 218,000 Acre Road.
I take it you live with them.
She tries.
And we deal with that speeding road. We live right on the corner as you go
Okay.
down, and you see how fast people actually go on that corner, and it's crazy, on the wrong side and everything. But that's not what my issue was. Since the Ridge Road has been paved, how many more accidents have you had on that road?
I don't know. I can get those stats. That I don't know off the top of my head.
Because I've seen, just in my short route of the road, because I go from Thousand Acres to Lonely every day, and there is so many vehicle marks in the ditch all over the place.
Yeah, I can get those stats. And if you don't want to wait till the next meeting, just come to the station, because they're easily obtainable.
I just know they're going a lot
Yeah.
faster now,
Oh, they are, yeah.
and they're not paying attention.
And folks, remember, these crimes here, like a lot of these crimes and crimes that are reported and charges filed, off the top of my head, I don't know how many of those crimes are from non-residents. We can track that, but we don't. But, this is a great township, both East and West Rockhill, so the issues that we're dealing with are quality of life issues, which I'd rather police that. I've been here for 29 years. I'd rather police that for 29 years than high volume crime and those types of calls. So when you see crimes like that, I mean, yeah, it is alarming. But remember, a lot of those crimes are committed by transient population coming through. So you do live in a safe neighborhood, and like I said, most of the issues are we're dealing with the quality of life issues, which that's what we'd rather deal with. So.
Okay, any questions for Chief other than that?
I just comment to listen to what Chief says, don't dump them down the toilet or put them in the garbage, take it to the police station.
And if you can't get there, like I said, I was at a restaurant one time, and I was off duty, and a guy recognized me as the police officer. He's like, "Hey, you still have that drug take-back box?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, I'm caring for an elderly lady who just passed away, and I have these prescriptions." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, just drop them off." He goes, "I won't be up your way for a while. Can you take them?" I'm like, "Okay." So I put them in the trunk of my car, and about a couple days later, I popped my trunk. I'm like, "That's right, I got these drugs here. I got to put them in the drug taker." Thankfully, I wasn't pulled over. Anyway.
All right, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the Chief's report. Or do you have a question?
No.
Okay, motion's been made. Second. All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
All right, moving forward, next on the agenda is the Joint Recreation Commission. Mr. Miller.
Okay, the minutes from the last meeting are in your packets. Just to go over a couple things. We've got some issues, not issues, we've got some items in the works for Jeff Markley Memorial at the pool. We will have our budget, the draft budget will be ready at our meeting on the first Tuesday of November. I don't anticipate any change in the budget from last year. There's no reason to raise it. We're doing pretty good right now. We actually caught, did Rod leave? We caught 2 people on camera. Now we have security cameras trying to break into the pool on 2 different occasions. So that's good news, the cameras are working. And let's see, financial report. We've got $8,414 in our fund balance, which is excellent because that's a 40% increase over last year. And last year was a constant down for the last 10 years. We just don't lose them.
You and everybody involved did a great job.
Yeah, I need to thank our volunteers. Many of them are in the audience here tonight. Actually, there's a lot of people that volunteer to come over and help us with the benches and help us just paint and scrape and pressure wash and everything else. So thank all you folks that do that, and the people that bring over their heavy equipment. And Tony, I'm going to keep thanking you for that, Tony. So recently, what have we done? Well, I want to thank Wendy Bradley, who made up these really nice cards. Nice picture of the pool, nice picture of everything we do on the back. We've been going around to all the events, September Fest. We took these to the Fall Festival in Percy, in Sellersville. Every place they're having an event, we walk in with these cards and give them out. And we're seeing a big uptick on our website of people that are getting interested in the pool. So that's really good news. I'm so happy that we keep making this fund a little bigger, because that's really what we want to become self-sufficient.
You want the pool to be used?
Yes, yes. Otherwise, Judy, you had a couple pictures that I like pictures. It just kind of tells you what's going on. We had put in these, you'll see those 6x6 posts. We had put those in last year to put in shade sails so that we had some more shade area, and they weren't put in properly. So last week I worked with the crew from Sellersville and Eddie's Electric, who came over and pulled them all, and we reset them at a depth of 5 feet and filled the entire thing up with concrete. And you can see that, though you can't see it, but they are solid now. They don't move at all. So we're all set to go there. So Steve, I think that meets all the requirements that you had for getting those things.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, things should be good now.
Yeah. Okay. So, so today I spent with 3 loads of topsoil, three cubes of topsoil, and a shovel and a wheelbarrow.
Did you have any help?
No. Oh, that's okay. I got a lot of it down. I'm gonna go back tomorrow and finish it up, and then I'm gonna put in seed, so it'll be all ready for spring. All right. So the other thing was, Suzanne, I walked over one day and Suzanne's under a bench with a can of stain. And all the wood was replaced on all 16 of her benches at the beginning of the year, but we wouldn't let them dry out. So Suzanne's been going around restaining all the benches. She had a crew in last week of 3 people from community service who helped her, and they got all of them done by 2, I think. So those will all be done by the end of next week. So those are all in good shape. So that's really the activities that are going on at the park right now. Wendy, am I allowed to say that you're getting ready to start a fundraiser, not a fundraiser, a membership drive?
Our membership drive?
Yeah, and you've got some people lined up in the community to help you out. I think that's excellent.
Yes, we want to try and do a membership drive, so I kind of talked to a lot of the moms that bring their kids every summer out there to get them involved. We have 5 so far, so if you know anyone else in the community or yourself that would want to help, give us a call or hit our website up and give us a hand with that.
Thank you.
Yep.
And I don't know how many of you have done this, but I mean, my kids took their swimming lessons there, and I know many of others, Bob, I think your kids took swimming lessons there too. They took them together, actually. So I think it's a good thing, and from what I saw on the survey, people think that the pool should stay, so we need to work to make it stay. Okay? So that's all I have.
Okay, great job, Jim. I'll entertain a motion for approval of the Joint Rec Authority report as presented. I'll second it. I'll second it. All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Thank you.
Oh, if anybody wants cards, I have them here. There's also in our lobby and many other lobbies of municipal buildings in the area. Sorry, go ahead.
That's all right. Moving forward. Next on the agenda is the tax collector's report. Suzanne, I don't.
Suzanne's on vacation.
Oh.
Before you have the tax collector's report for this month brought in was $2,633.80. It's the slow time of year. We get most of our tax money in the spring and summer.
Right. Any questions regarding the tax report?
No.
None? Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Have a motion made for approval.
Second.
Second by Don. All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you. Moving forward, engineers report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I only have a few minor items on the agenda tonight. First is the Fedegari Technologies Land Development Plan on Bethel Pike. If you recall, that was approved a few months ago. They have addressed all their conditions of approval except for signing of the record plans and agreements. Mary's working on the agreements. We have the record plans here tonight, so I'd look for a motion to authorize signing the plans after the meeting.
Okay. We have a motion made.
Second.
Second. All those signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, you got that.
You have our plan review status in your agenda books. There's no projects requiring action at tonight's meeting. And then the last item is one construction voucher for Rockhill Contractor Services in the amount of $15,034.16.
That's the mini storage.
That's the mini.
Cost of the new
I
one.
move for approval of the release of the money.
Okay. I'll second that. Motion's been made, second. All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it.
And that's all I have unless there's any questions.
I don't have any questions for you. Either of you two have questions for me? Okay. Entertain a motion for approval of the engineer's report as presented.
So moved.
Motion's been made. Second. All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next on the agenda is the solicitor's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only item I have on the solicitor's report this evening is an approval resolution for the Holzerman lot line change. This is a property on Catch Basin Road. You reviewed the plan at the last meeting. Directed me to prepare a resolution, which I have done. The applicant has reviewed the resolution and has agreed to the conditions set forth therein. So if you would want to adopt the resolution, you could do so by making a motion to approve Resolution 2017-6.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, that motion's been made. I'll second it.
There's some discussion.
Yep, go right ahead.
I was saying about fee in lieu of in this activity.
I believe that what was in the review letter and what you discussed at the last meeting was that because no new lots were being created, there is no fee in lieu of. The fee in lieu of road improvements is only when a new lot is being created.
Correct. Does it satisfy Mr. DeValle?
Well, yeah, always been,
Okay.
I want to make sure it was discussed
It was.
and understanding.
Okay, so I have a motion on the table and second. All those signify by saying aye. Aye.
Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. I will entertain a motion to approve the solicitor's report.
So moved.
Motion's been made, second. All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, ayes have it. Township manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first item is the emergency services report for September 2017. Sellersville had 24 calls, 8 of which were in West Rockdale Township. Sellersville Route 309 had 3 calls, 3 of which were in West Rockdale Township. Telford had 20 calls, 5 of which were in West Rockdale Township. Telford Route 309 had 2 calls, 2 of which were in West Rockdale Township. Tylersport had 15 calls, 1 of which were in West Rockdale Township. And Trump-Barsville had 41 calls, 5 of which were in West Rockdale Township. Any questions on the emergency services?
I don't, but I just want to make a documentation here. We have a fire company meeting coming up, right?
The 24th.
24th, okay, thank you.
6 p.m.
Okay, thanks.
All right, the next item is the West Rock Hill building reports. You have a list of a copy of the reports that have been issued. Also for the month of September, $12,926.71, bringing the grand total to $83,139.05.
It's a good month.
It was a busy
Compared to
month.
what we've had.
Very good. Any questions on that?
So we beat the budget.
We beat the budget.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the zoning permits report and payment of the bills.
So moved.
All subject to audit. Second? Second. Okay, motion's been made and second. Discussion?
We should pay the bills.
Payment of the bills, yep.
You never use it.
You didn't get to those?
No, I went
Okay.
over the building and zone.
Okay, sorry. I'll hold that then until we get through that.
The next item is the treasurer's report and payment of the bills. General fund is $529,605.86. Highway 8 is $166,665.83. The open space is $1,784,927.69. Park fund, $11,205.98. The equipment fund, $18,699.09. Highway capital, $124.47. The street light, $33,529.15. The reserve funds, the general fund reserve is $304,252.98. The open space manager field is $50,654.88. Sewage maintenance fund is $165,518.45. The stormwater fund is $7,068.81. The escrow funds is $160,958.40. And the open space first time fund is $24,221.75. You also have a copy of the list of bills.
Any questions on the list of bills or the financial report?
Now I move for approval, all subject to audit.
Okay,
Second.
motion's been made and second. All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
The next item on the list is the Public Works report over the maintenance done on the roads. Arm Road, Simmons, Barn, Catch Basin, Shoecraft, North Tower, 1,000 Acre, and Shady Lane. Installed a trench drain on Old Mill and Bethlehem Pike. Patched around the grate, patched Simmons and Gold Mine. Crack sealed Gold Mine, Simmons, and Shoecraft. Replaced a 25-mile-per-hour sign on the Sterners. Replaced stop sign at Lonely and Ridge. Straightened stop sign at Old Mill and Forest. Followed around the sweeper truck for the oil and chip roads. Picked up dump sofa at Hagler and Ridge. And monthly inspections of the cross pipes, culverts, and grades. Any questions on the Public Works report?
None for me.
No, I have none.
Move for approval.
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made and second. All those signify by saying aye. Aye.
The The next item is the Joint Recreation Authority vacancy. In your packet is an email from Suzanne Clark withdrawing her name from being considered to be on the Joint Rec Authority.
Okay. So we will continue the search.
We do have an opening for someone who wants to join the Park and Rec. Sellersville West Rockhill Joint Rec Authority, which manages the Holiday House pool, if anyone would like to be on that board. We're looking for people that really want to come in and help make a change.
Okay.
The next item is the fire contracts. We have 3 fire contracts to go before, and I'm looking for an authorization for the board to sign the annual fire contracts out.
Okay. I'll make that motion that we do that.
Do we need all 4 before you can do that?
We'll sign the 3 that are here.
Okay.
And then I'll work on the one that isn't.
I'll second. John second.
Okay. Motion's been made second on that issue. All those signify by saying aye.
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 And the board meeting is the 24th at 6 o'clock, you said?
At 6 o'clock. The last item is in the board's mailboxes. I put in the 2018 draft budget just for your review. The process is that we do a presentation in November of the budget, you authorize advertisement, and then from there we go to adoption and consent.
Okay.
That's all I have.
All right. Great. Any questions for him? All right, I'll make a motion, we approve the township manager's report as presented.
So moved.
You're second. Okay. All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Old business. I have one thing, if I may. Update on PennDOT roads. Mr. Linden, as you can see, the Ridge Road was completely finished, paved by last meeting, but I didn't see you here, so I couldn't report that to you.
Sorry I missed.
Have not had any conversation or information to this date on Cat Hill Road. So we're still trying to find out when and what can be done, but it has not been on the list. Okay?
Thank you.
You got it. Anybody else have any old business?
No.
New business?
Yeah, I have.
Okay.
I'd like to make some comments about this meeting that we had this evening and the input we got from our residents. We faced a similar situation probably 10 years ago, and we resolved that issue where the same kind of implications were there. And I'd like to propose and look for agreement and approval from the other members of the board. I'm going to suggest, because of the perceived activity surrounding everything relative to this quarry, that we begin to clear the air. And I'm going to propose that we put together a committee. The committee would be made up of myself, and I would select my body, if he's willing to, Chris Durstein, representatives from whoever these people that have complaints, they want to provide 2 representatives, and have Steve available as a part of that. And then we would bring that to the board in an effort to dispel and do whatever we can do to try to clear the air on this subject. Because it's a subject that the community has indicated to us that we've had 2 filled rooms like this. We had 2 rooms, plenty of people at planning commission meetings. They're concerned, they're disturbed. And I think we need to do something to fix it. And I think I should make this proposal, and that we'll bring a proposal back to the board to approve for whether we go or no go with the quarry request.
Well, I thank you for your comments, but this is a process that is in the process, and we're not done the process yet.
But we weren't on the other one either.
It's not, I'm not sure what other one you're talking about. Are you talking about the batch plant?
No.
The applicant submitted a request to amend the comprehensive plan and zoning ordinance. There's a really strict procedure for that set forth in the municipality's planning code, and you have to comply with that procedure. The Board of Supervisors the Planning Commission has to review it. There's no getting around or reducing the number of members on your Planning Commission. The Planning Commission has to review that, make comments. There has to be a public hearing, and people have the opportunity to come in and speak. The only exception to that would be if the board decided it wasn't even going to entertain it that far. But to have a secondary or a different process than that, there's
Still
no...
a planning process.
But the planning process is prescribed. The municipality's planning code calls for a planning commission, and the planning commission has to be created by ordinance, and then it has to act in accordance with the municipality's planning code. And you've done all that, so,
What's illegal about
I think what I'm saying is you're avoiding a required legal process, and that is having the planning commission finish its review and make a recommendation to the board of supervisors, for one.
So is taking
That's not my
bribes.
understanding.
And I don't mean to be at all disrespectful, but this is what I do for a living. And I've been doing it for a pretty long time. And I know what the laws say, and there isn't, the courts, the appellate courts in Pennsylvania are very, very strict about compliance with the municipality's planning code.
Can we,
it?
I
You did
don't,
it before, let's give it to it again.
I'm just not sure what you're talking about.
Tunnels. There was a perceived conflict, and
Can you speak up? We can't hear what you're
I
saying.
said it was the tunnel development. It's approximately 10 years ago. We had a similar situation, real or imagined, but it was not going anyplace, and it's not getting done. And certain people were involved indirectly, and it was an issue in the community. And we were able to sit down and have that discussion and bring a proposal to the board, and that could be presented by the planning commission. But we need to isolate the questions and what I perceive as a trust issue, so that's
And-
my proposal.
And there is a similarity between the title situation and this one, in that it has divided the community, or perceived to divide the community. So far, the
Well, I
the
don't
Board of
think
Supervisors. No, I haven't heard a lot of people saying different things on this, and I don't see that the board's made a decision. But there's a process, and the review of the materials submitted by the applicant are going through that process. So,
They were then,
I don't recall an ordinance amendment for the title. I don't recall that they made a formal request to amend the zoning ordinance. I recall that situation. I beg your-
aren't they asking for changing the ordinance?
Yeah, but I don't remember that was the case in the title.
Maybe you should look into that.
yeah, that's on record though, right? Can that be looked into?
I'm sorry.
If you're speaking and you didn't identify
I'm
yourself,
sorry.
if you want to speak, raise your hand and I'll identify you.
Whether I look into it or not doesn't change what the
Exactly.
law says the process has to be.
Okay.
Trish Hurlinger, 410,000 Acre Road. How long will the process take then? Like, we've been waiting. Like, can you give us an idea? What's the holdup? What's taking so long?
I think right now what we're waiting for is, we requested additional information from the quarry regarding some of the issues that the residents have complained most about, that being water quality water supply, noise, and vibration, and expansion. And we're waiting for answers to those questions.
And is there a time frame? Like, can they just wait and answer whenever they want? Like, how long are you going to allow them to answer the questions?
Right now, it hasn't been more than 30 days since the request went in. I think we made the request after listening to public comment at the last meeting and hearing what the concerns of people are. And I think that the Planning Commission is hoping to get that for their November meeting and make a recommendation at that time to the Board of Supervisors.
We just didn't know if there was something we could do to push things along or move things forward, because again, if this is about unity, it shouldn't be a battle against supervisors and all that. I mean, that's how we all feel threatened.
And when I made the comment about the perceived division, that's what I was referring to. I understand what the process is, so I hear what you people are saying, the board hears what you people are saying. It doesn't mean anybody disagrees with you. It just means that there's a process and
And
you
so
have to
we're
go through the
waiting on
process.
them, basically, for their comments or
Right,
what
and then
have you.
right, and if they don't respond to, the information that was requested, then the Planning Commission has the ability to make a recommendation without it.
And how long do you give them for that? Like, what's the
Well,
wait? Like,
What
how long?
a reasonable amount of time, and I would think that you would want it, Mr. Durstein, a week or so before the meeting so that you had a chance to review the
Sure.
information.
I mean, we would have preferred to have it this month.
Certainly.
We're not trying to hold this up. To have it this month, we wouldn't be sitting here tonight having this discussion. If they're in next month, we would love that. If they give us information, if they give us the information that we're requesting, if they give us anything close to unsatisfactory answers, I think we're probably, I'm speaking for myself, not for them, should be able to make a recommendation after next month's meeting if they come prepared with what we ask them to bring. If that makes sense to you.
Well, it does, but I just
We
didn't know.
would love to end this, trust me, but we're taking our time.
Well, I didn't know
it's-
because we were talking about legal issues and stuff, and I didn't know if there was a legal time frame. Like, that's what I don't understand.
Well, there is a legal time frame.
That's
If
what I
you
mean.
look at the municipality's planning code, it says that the Board of Supervisors has to make a decision within 60 days of the filing of the application. And I'm just getting so technical with you, but
That's
if
fine.
you
I
look at
just-
some of the other provisions, like curative and conditional use applications or zoning hearing board application, there's a deemed approval in there. So if you don't act within that certain amount of time, the application is automatically deemed approved and the applicant gets what they want. Those time periods have to be adhered to. In this case, the legislature doesn't provide for a deemed approval process. So the only recourse the applicant would have would be to go to court to order the Board of Supervisors to make a decision, in which case no applicant in history has ever done that, because if you force somebody to give you an answer, you're probably not gonna like the answer. So I think I'm recommending to the township that we have had a very litigious history with the quarry, and that the process go forward in a deliberate, careful, and thoughtful manner, so that whatever decision the Board of Supervisors makes will be supported factually by the information that's uncovered during the process.
I think we just have to start the discussion within 60 days. I don't think the board has to make a decision in 60 days.
I think what the code says is they have to have a hearing within 60 days. And then you have up to 90 days after the hearing is held to actually vote on the ordinance. So, yes, you're right about that. I'm just not trying to overwhelm people with 4,000 details, but technically, yes, you're correct about that.
Frank?
Frank Shimondera, 1030 Allentown Road. I sat on a planning commission for about 10 years. And people have asked me, how does the planning commission make a decision? And I told them, I says, if my brother came in and wanted something done and it wasn't right, he wouldn't get it. If my worst enemy came in and wanted something done and it was right, he would get it. And I think I've worked with some of the guys that are on the planning commission now, and everybody heard the respected Jeff Markley, and I think that was almost the code that we operated under. We go by the laws that we have to follow. Sometimes the results are not what the residents want, but I think everybody's listening. And I think what Don's proposing is really, I don't want to, maybe the term's too heavy, but a smack at the planning commission. I could tell you, if I was sitting on that planning commission and we agreed to do that, I would turn my resignation in tomorrow because you're superseding the power that they were given.
All right.
Or a special situation sometimes.
It's not a special situation yet.
Process, it's a process.
A process. It's a process ongoing right now.
Yes. No, this isn't business. This isn't business. Okay. Anyway, Mr. Duval made a proposal. I tend to agree with Mary and the Planning Commission. This is a process, and we're gonna follow this process through to get all the facts and information, and we are going to listen to all of the input of all of you folks, as well as everyone else that we can get input from. That's what's right, and that's the process that we're going to follow here, from my perspective. I will say, for my new business item, that I would like to suggest that the board allow Greg to go through with what Steve had identified in a letter of his some time ago, is to hire our own independent hydrogeologist to do a study on the water. That H&K has had their own hydrogeologist do a study and give their results. Because the number one issue to me, as well to all of you, is our water. That is number one. If the water is not right, then we got problems. So I think it is wise to allow the township to hire their own independent hydrogeologist to do its study. Of course, that has to be, you have to get RFPs for that, right, quote.
It's not,
It's a message.
it's not legal.
I said that. That was a request that Steve identified it. No, Steve identified it in one of his letters. Correct in saying that?
Correct.
Yeah.
And if there's interest in time, professional services never have to be bid out. Like, RFPs are not a bad thing, but somebody has to draft the RFP, then it has to be advertised, then you have to wait for the responses. So that could postpone things longer than you want. Steve must know hydrogeologists, Greg must know hydrogeologists, I know hydrogeologists. We could make some recommendations and get someone to review the materials and maybe even have some information for the planning commission.
Would I be able to get support from the fellow board members to do that?
There should be dealing with planning questions, so.
Well, you need the board, you need to spend money.
Right.
So,
I want to tell you why I'm in favor of that.
okay.
I've lived on Thousand Acre Road for over 4 years. I've not had to put in a new well, but I had to put in a UV light because after they started blasting, my fecal count went to a point where it was uncountable. I have a soft water system. I had to put in a whole house filter, and I've been drinking bottled water for 25 years.
Who has to live like that? That's what I'm saying.
I understand that, Tony. So yes, I want to know what's on Thousand Acre Road. I can tell you that in the 25 houses around me, there have been 10 cases of cancer in 25 houses. So yes, I want to know what's in that water, if there is anything in that water. So there's my answer.
So I have a,
Question.
yes.
First,
Go ahead.
what would
Name and address, please.
115,000 acre?
Name.
Max Sigma.
Max Sitka.
Max.
Max, okay, Max.
Yeah, so you said that there, like, if, what would we do if there was something in the water? Like, how would that be fixed? How would that be moved?
We won't know until we get the results. We don't know what the results are.
There's a lot of different things, there's not just one answer that he can give you, but if it turns out something's in the water, then we have to be able to, well, we report that right away to DEP and to the Board of Health so that the township would have help in dealing with it. But then, part of that investigation would be to figure out how it got in the water, who put it in the water, what's the best way of cleaning it up, what's the best way of getting the residents water. And usually when they know there's something wrong with your drinking water, bottled water is supplied right away so that people aren't drinking it. And it depends on what the contaminant is, how the situation is remedied.
Michelle Shetter, 260 South Acres. I don't think you people get what's going on here. They have already admitted to impacting our water supply. They have acknowledged that continued pouring operations will continue to impact our water supply. It's not just the quality of water, there are many other issues as well. I don't understand why you can't just see, no one has come before you, not one person has come before you to say they are in favor of this project. Yeah, look at all these people that are here time and time and time again, telling you that they do not want this project in this township. That quarry, they're mining the Brunswick and the Locaton formations, which basically run parallel to Ridge Road for Georgia. Those formations go right to 1,000 Acre Road. And a lot of us are now starting to wonder, what is the H&K big picture? Karina really calls it Quarry Creek. They take a little bit here, they take a little bit there, but they have a big picture in mind. Reclamation is huge money for a quarry. The larger they mine, the bigger the open mine pit they create, the more reclamation has to be done. And that basically is only means fill. Fill. What are they filling with? There's plain fill, and then there's regulated fill. Regulated fill includes things like asphalt. 25% of that quarry can be filled with asphalt. Historic fill, dredged materials. And it is up to H&K's discretion, basically, to supervise what comes in to the quarry. Basically what they do is, they consume the land, they come and they push off all the good soil or the high Shannon silt loam, soils of farmland importance. We have these overburden piles. They blast, they mine, they take all the stone out, they create this big hole. Now they need to reclaim it. And what do they do that with? They bring in fill. And they charge a fee for that. They make money on that. They make money on the stone. Then, when that's all said and done, they're gonna take that overburden pile, and it's in their application if you read it. And they're gonna sell that and use that for off-site fill and make more money on that. And in the meantime, bring in more fill to fill the quarry because there's a 20% settling factor. It's just a big, huge money pit. Ultimately, it will be an unmanaged water impoundment. And I have said this before, when those pumps turn off, that groundwater will rise. And the groundwater will come in contact with that construction fill material that is in there. And if we're concerned right now about the water quality, what's in the water, what do you think generations down the road that toxic cesspool is going to be? What kind of a legacy is this township going to leave if we allow the quarry to create a huger environmental disaster beyond which they have already put onto the township here? I think, you know, Don Duvall's comments about they're not out of line, really, because if you look at this application, it's 180 pages. And I don't know if you've noticed it, but the court has a way of purposely wording things so that they're deceitful. And it really is mind-boggling to sit there and go paragraph after paragraph through this application. I've been to many of these planning commission meetings, and questions are not being asked that should be asked. And I think a lot of people are wondering, like, what is the correspondence going on right now between the township and the court? Like Chris just said, and we have these zoning laws in place to preserve the homesteads that we have, to preserve the quality of life, the drinking water, and allowing this quarry to rezone and expand really, you know, does contradict everything that this township does stand for. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Jim, do you have any new business?
Yes, I just want to announce that Sellersville Fire Department is having an open house on Sunday the 22nd from 12 to 3. Take your kids over. They do events there, burning a building, burning cars. It can be a lot of fun, and you really get to see how the firemen work and
That's kind of funny, the way you phrase it, Jim.
well, you know, it's what they do.
Kids love that stuff, they do.
Support your local fire departments.
Yeah,
They're
it's
there
a
for
nice
us.
event. Go over and get some free cider.
Okay, moving along then, next on the agenda is public comment. If you have any, please state your name and your address. You were first, in fact.
Megan Banis Clemens, 917 Thousand Acre Road. I have a situation I wanted to share with the community, but I had a couple quick questions first. What are the enforcement procedures for ordinance violations?
It depends what ordinance, different ordinances.
Ordinance 202?
That's solid waste management.
Yes.
I believe that enforcement procedure is a citation as opposed to a civil penalty.
Right, but what is the procedure for issuing a citation? Who issues it? Who does it go through? Does it go through you? Does it go through the supervisors?
Greg is the code enforcement officer.
Okay, but does that go through your office before it's issued?
Not always, sometimes not.
Why would it sometimes and sometimes not?
Sometimes he'll have a question about interpreting the ordinance, and sometimes he won't.
So you don't issue those ordinance violations? It doesn't go through your office to be issued?
No, the state law does not provide for the solicitor to also be the enforcement officer.
Okay, so in this particular one, 52-01, 52-003-077, where it went directly through your office, and you were the one who issued that?
I want to stop this a minute.
Sure.
I want to ask, this is public comment? This is public comment time?
Okay,
Questions?
so I shouldn't ask.
Are we getting?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, that's fine. I won't ask questions, I'll just share.
If you want to talk to me some other time about it, that's fine, but if you have a comment you want to make, you can go ahead and do that.
I was just asking that question because it had to do with what I was going to share, but I'll just skip
I
right
have
to what I was
never
going
signed
to
a
share.
citation for West Rockhill Township ever.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, I'll skip right ahead then. In ordinance 202, which was enacted in 2010, there's only ever been 2 citations ever issued for this violation, okay? Both of which were issued to residents on Thousand Acre Road since we've had a supervisor elected on Thousand Acre Road, okay? The first one here went through 6 months, okay? I have documentation for right to know request, which was given to me after my hearing, conveniently ready after my hearing, even though I filed it weeks before. The township decided to wait until after my hearing to actually give me the information. 6 months worth of letters and warnings to these people on my road saying, you're in violation, please comply. Giving 15 days notice, please comply. Here's a copy of the ordinance you violated, please comply. Okay? And then finally, after 6 months of this, okay, and this was a lot of trash, okay, they were finally issued a citation 6 months later, okay? In my situation, I tried to throw out a toilet, okay? I put the toilet out at the end of my driveway for the trash company to pick up. The trash company did not pick it up. We didn't know why. I've never had issues with my trash company picking up my trash before. So I contacted the trash company to find out, why they weren't picking up my trash. They said that now they have a bulk item rule, which I've thrown out bulk items in the past. I've never had any issues, okay? So they said I needed to schedule it in advance. I said, no problem. Let's schedule it for this week then. So in the meantime, I got contacted by Greg asking me to please move the toilet from the end of the road. That's literally all the email said, and this was via email. The rest of this was sent, and I can show you the citation in the letter that was sent to the other resident on my road, okay? That was sent with a letter from Mrs. Eberly's office with asking, it was actually sent to the courthouse, and they had to serve the citation on that person. I got a one-sentence email without even the information sent to me, okay? I contacted Greg. I told him what was going on. He said, no problem. He said, it's going to be gone this week, no problem. Okay, next thing, Jim Miller comments on my situation. Immediately, 5 people that are buddies with him conveniently call the township complaining. Immediately, Greg calls me and says, you know what, I've gotten complaints. Can you do me a favor, move it 17.5 feet from the road, okay, until the next trash day so people don't get upset. I said, no problem, Greg. You're just doing your job. We pulled it 17.5 feet from the road, waited until the day before, okay, on Wednesday morning. We put it back out, okay. It was going to get picked up on Thursday. It didn't get picked up on Thursday. We have 24 hours before and 24 hours after based on what the language says in this ordinance, okay. It hadn't even been 24 hours yet, and I had a citation sent to me, okay, from Greg, no warning. After I had let him know that it was getting picked up, he told me it was fine. I did exactly what he told me to do. I get a citation for like $800 for my toilet. I contacted him, okay? I didn't get it till a week later after I had to break up my toilet. Friday, when they didn't come, we broke up the toilet, put it in the trash can, pulled it away. The next week, we sent it out, okay? Thursday, I get the citation in the mail, which was a huge shock to me. My toilet had already been gone. I followed everything he said to do. Okay, I contacted him, asked him about it, and couldn't understand why I was getting this citation. Immediately after questioning him, okay, Jim Miller confronts my husband on my driveway. Very odd, okay, that within hours of a conversation with Greg, all of a sudden, Jim Miller has all the facts, and they're colluding back and forth on exactly what's going on. Completely inappropriate. In most of these cases, okay, the supervisors are all consulted before a violation is issued. It usually goes through the attorney so she can make sure it's actually a violation, which mine was not, because not only was it within the 24 hours, but it refers to a waste container, okay? And a toilet is not a waste container. And it further goes on to define exactly what a waste container is. A refuse container shall be made of durable, watertight, rust-resistant material having closed-fitting lids and handles to facilitate collections. Clearly not my toilet, okay? So I was not even in violation. I was completely vindicated in court. But it's ridiculous that I am being targeted, okay? Targeted because because I'm on the school board and his wife is on the school board, and because we don't see eye to eye, they target everyone that they don't like. Everybody that they complained about, okay, before he got elected, all of a sudden is getting citations. What a coincidence. They went after my next door neighbor because they wanted Ada to be able to ride her horse on his property, and he said, sure, no problem, but there's holes in the property and I don't want your horse to break its leg. And just to protect myself, could you sign a waiver saying that you won't sue me if your horse breaks its leg? They were so offended. Every single time I spoke to them, they complained, okay, about how horrible that was. As soon as he becomes supervisor, all of a sudden they're targeting him. I actually, in 2015, the very beginning of 2015, I had an HVAC system it was a botched thing. I had tons of trash to get rid of. At the time, I was friends with them, okay? So when I went to try to put out my trash, it took months to get rid of all the insulation, everything that I had to rip out of my house. Never heard a peep from the township. It wasn't a problem because I was friends with them. Then as soon as I wasn't friends with them, my husband put out trash one day because he put it out early. Immediately a picture is taken from across the street and sent to Greg, who emails me saying, please remove your trash because it's out too early, which we did, okay? But this is why people don't volunteer to serve in this community, because they get targeted by people when they disagree with them, okay? And there's people on my road, they know every time the Millers are walking up and down the road, if I'm doing anything, I'm going to get a visit from Greg because they're going to contact Greg and tell him to come out and make sure that they're not doing anything wrong, okay? That's exactly what keeps happening to several people. And you know what else, okay? In my hearing, do you want to know who came to my hearing as a big surprise? Jim's campaign manager and the Democratic committee woman came to watch my hearing. Isn't that a bit odd? How many trash violation hearings do you think those people come to, okay? And tell me that's not political, for them to come and watch my hearing on a toilet. The judge thought the case was absolutely ridiculous, couldn't even understand why we were there. Neither could I, okay? I mean, these are the things that are happening. I actually have pictures because this happened. My hearing was right after Septemberfest. So the weekend of Septemberfest, my husband was irritated because he's driving around seeing trash cans, which actually violate the ordinance because the ordinance only applies to the can itself. Okay. He's seeing them lining the streets. So he started taking pictures. I have plenty of pictures to show you guys of the trash cans all up and down the road. You want to know how many of them got letters? None. You know why? Because they didn't piss off the Millers, okay? You want to know something else? I was on the soccer board, okay? I don't know who approves township letters that go out. The township, these that come out, okay? But when Jim Miller was running, he got front page on here while he was running against a seated supervisor, okay? I have a letter that I sent as the secretary of Pennridge Yellow Jackets before the September newsletter went out stating that we were not going to be able to go forward with this field unless they did all these things the township was not ever going to do, okay? I have a letter, I have it dated, it was sent to Greg, it was sent to Jim, okay? Then, after that, they decided to advertise in here that they're still doing what they knew they weren't doing, telling you all these promises. Continuing after that, you remember seeing this? Okay, coming around when he's running for re-election, talking about how he's putting in these fields that he knew he wasn't putting in anymore because there was rebar and concrete in the fields that they were trying to hide from Don, okay? And then Don found out about it, so they wouldn't even let me read my letter in this meeting when I came prepared with my letter to read it. They didn't want me to read it that night because they didn't want it to affect Jim's campaign, okay? This is a collusion, okay? And if this stuff's going to continue in this township, and you guys are going to keep going after me and my neighbors for your crap, we will sue for harassment. So just put this on notice, because I did not violate this. I was vindicated in court, okay? And you guys have absolutely no right. And I can show you picture after picture, trash cans lining the roads, okay? Same time. In fact, one's on my road, okay? On my road at the same time my toilet's out, there were actually trash cans all up and down the roads. None of them got citations at all, okay?
Mrs. Clemens?
Yes.
Your time is up. You're by our law, you're allowed 2.5 minutes. I let you go way over that. Thank you for your public comment.
Can I just mention too, that it's probably inappropriate when we have potholes all up and down our road to purposely fix one pothole in front of their house and then wait a month to come back and fix the rest of the potholes.
Thank you for your comment. Anybody else with public comment? Yes, sir.
Jason Stoneback, 811 Thousand Acre Road. First off, my hats go off to you, Don, for you know, making the people of the community feel appreciated. My problem here is more, you know, Frank said about appointing positions to board, people, you know, to board positions. I think we made a mistake as citizens of this community electing Jim Miller, okay? And this is an integrity issue more than anything. My wife and I bought our house, 811 Thousand Acre Road. You know, the previous owners, the Undercofflers who lived there. We thought it was our dream home, the place we wanted to live forever, okay? And it wasn't until recently I was actually pretty neutral about the quarry, until I talked to the Shedders a couple weeks ago, and they told me about the water issue, okay, that we've been drinking, because actually our house was advertised to us as not having the water softener hooked up, okay, to the drinking water, okay? So we thought the drinking water was safe. We had no idea, okay? We have 4 young kids, and we feed them organically every day, their whole lives, so that they don't get sick, okay? To find this out is really upsetting, okay? But part of the reason why I'm a concerned citizen is, you know, my story, you know, and I know Megan's talking about trash cans and whatnot, but, you know, when we moved into the township about 5 years ago, Jim Miller stopped and talked to me while I was standing at the end of the road, and he said, you know, I hear that you guys are redoing your 200-year-old barn on your property, which we were. He said, great, I think it's a great idea, okay? We have a committee that we're joining to redo the James barn in the township, and the committee would like to come over to see the barn and get some ideas, okay? So I said, no problem, I'll have to talk to my wife, and we'll set a date, okay? Within a couple weeks, he was knocking on the door, and 2 or 3 times, right, Jim?
I was at your house twice.
Okay.
Twice in total.
2 or 3 times, and a couple phone calls.
And my story's a little.
Okay, no, it's my turn to talk, he said that a month later, right before, we had refurbished our barns, because we have the old barn, the Undercofflers did a great job keeping the outside nice. The inside needed some work done. We started doing the work. Family members and friends said, can we start having parties in your barn? We agreed to it, okay? We thought, what a way to make some extra money, and we were hosting 5 weddings in the spring and 5 weddings in the fall, okay? By the way, we did not apply a permit for permits, okay? So, you know, we admitted guilt to that in our variance hearing. 30 days before our first wedding that we were going to host, we received the day of the first wedding we hosted, we received a cease and desist letter from the township, okay? And what ended up happening was we applied for a variance hearing. We go to the variance hearing, and Jim and Ada Miller are there. Again, what he thought was a great idea, all of a sudden, they're there opposing, okay? So our goal was to offset the cost of maintaining a 200-year-old barn, okay? And we were asking for a variance. We were not asking to rezone our property. We had 50 signatures of people up and down Thousand Acre Road and Allentown Road in favor of it. There were a few neighbors, and some of them are in this room, that opposed it, okay? But anyway, we lose the variance here. We accept that. We end up hosting a communion party privately, okay? Our Christian homeschooling group, year-end banquet, and then we ended up hosting a wedding for a friend. No charge, okay? We were told by our attorney, no charge. They can't do anything about it. It's not a business, okay? So we get a letter from the township after these events suing us for $60,000, or attempting to sue us for $60,000, okay? So we go to court. Who's in court? Jim and Ada Miller. And not only are they there, but they're also talking to Greg and the township attorney in the other room while we're with our attorney, okay? So it is collusion, as far as I'm concerned. They have something against the people, and it's an integrity issue in my opinion. So That's really all I have to say. Jim, if, you know, we knew all it would take was to pave your driveway anonymously, we would have done it for you. So, that's all I have to say.
Is there any other public comment?
Yes, Karina Rilling, 217 Thousand Acre Road. I just wanted to tell you that we have a petition opposing the rezoning of the lot that we were all talking about. And I wanted to share with you that we have to date 270 signatures, 95 of which are online signatures with comments. So I wanted to tell you that there's a considerable body of people opposed to the rezoning. Thank you.
Thanks for your comment. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Elizabeth Branson, 210 Reagan Drive, actually known as Betsy. And we moved here 10 years ago. And when we lived in White Marsh Township, I was on the Open Space Committee because saving open space and the environment was so important. So we checked out West Rockhill before we moved here as to what the ideas and what the planning was for conservation versus building. And thought, you know what, this is a good idea. We moved here. And somehow, I think a neighbor found out what I did in my last township. So I was invited to be a member of the Conservation Committee. And what this township has done to conserve the environment, open space next to state game lands, we have a big process to evaluate properties to be conserved. And what I'm concerned about, if we have an area that's conserved residential, where this quarry wants to expand, and if that's overturned, then what would happen to other conserved areas? Would that set a precedent? And I think it's important, especially, and with water issues. I've learned a lot about water issues here and in other communities, and that is very important for the people that live here. And if 80% of people here have wells, that is really something we can't take a chance on that. That's my comment.
Thank you for your comment.
I just don't want anybody to leave with the wrong impression. The property that the quarry seeks to expand is zoned in a conservation district. Properties that the township had paid money to conserve by conservation easements or by purchasing the property are restricted by documents that are filed at the courthouse. That's not a zoning designation. It isn't something that can be changed. So I don't want anyone to fear that the time and money and energy that the township's put into its open space conservation program is in any jeopardy, or that somebody could come in and file an application and have that designation removed. That's something that is a lot more permanent than zoning regulations.
But what is more permanent than having this quarry expand into an area that is conserved, and then the water is...
Oh, you're absolutely right. A quarry expansion is also very permanent. I'm not arguing that. My point, the only point I was trying to make was to assure people that properties that the township had purchased, either in fee simple or by conservation easement, were protected.
Okay, yes, sir. Name and address?
Bob Erlinger, 410,000 Acre Road. One thing I've been concerned about since December when I first came here, one of my concerns with it is, can someone on the board enlighten me or give me the definition or the legalities? What is involved with a resource extraction zone? What are they enabled to do? What are their rights? Is there something down written in paper what they are allowed to do, what they are not allowed? Because if you got a residential zoning, it's one thing. Industrial zoning, it's something else. Commercial zoning, it's something else. What are their rights? What can they do? What can't they do? Is there somewhere?
Yes.
I tried going down the law library down in Bucks County. I didn't get too much information from there.
No,
So-
you wouldn't have to go so far. If you go to the township building and just sit down and take a look at the zoning ordinance,
But is it cut and dry what they can, what they can't do? Are there any, what I'm trying to say to you, is there any loopholes that somewhere down the line, because they got very expensive lawyers too, and like it was also brought up, that they have ways of wording things that if they find a way around something that is a kind of a gray area that isn't set in stone, no pun intended, can they come back somewhere down the line? Like, from what I read in an article that my wife and I were looking for, and it came under resource extraction zoning. Once they get that approval, from what I understood, it pretty much takes everything away from you guys. They pretty much have the right to do whatever they want on that property once they get it zoned resource extraction. And they pretty much have gold blanc or carte blanc, whatever that saying is, to do whatever they want. And it takes all the responsibility off of you guys. And right now, we have that. I mean, where it is right now, at least we have some say in something. And if it comes to that point where they get this zone for resource extraction, I'm afraid that it's too late, that we can't turn back time and kind of control something that we actually have a little control of right now. That's what I'm afraid of.
You're absolutely correct, and that's one of the reasons why the planning commission is being deliberate in its process. The board is, what you're saying is true. Once a property is zoned for extraction and they put it to use for that use, they can do anything that's permitted in the zoning ordinance definition of extraction, and that there is no going back from that, and that's why a decision to zone or not zone has to be deliberate and thorough.
And that's what scares me, because right now, right now we have a little control over that. You guys have a say. And once that's done, it's done. And that's what I'm afraid of. We're afraid of.
I think the planning commission and the board shares your concern.
Thank you.
Mr. Bogner?
Anthony Bogner, Clymer Avenue. Earlier, Mary talked about the correspondence between H&K and the township, and I know Chris talked about concessions and other things, and I think transparency is very important. My question is that those documents, the questions that go back and forth between the township and H&K, is it possible that they could be public documents so we can see them through those specific questions that you're asking them? Because in the last planning commission, Scott went through a list of questions, but they were already asked. That was his response. And Mary stated that she was waiting back from H&K.
Tony, I can't see you.
I'm right here.
There
I
you
didn't go
are.
nowhere.
Hey, there was just like a voice coming from the back of the room, and I'm looking, where is he? That's your seat, you always sit there.
Yeah, I have to, and then I move my chairs because I gotta make sure I don't fall out of the chair. So,
The documents that I was referring to aren't things that, I don't know that anybody's requested from them in writing. I know that after the last meeting, Greg and Steve and I contacted him and said, look, we're concerned about water. People are concerned about both the supply and the quality. People are concerned about the noise. People are concerned about the vibration. People are concerned about the expansion. Like all the things that every resident, is there any input that you would have on those issues? And so it's not that there's a written list. If there was a written list and it didn't come from me because my correspondence is protected, but if there's a list, that would be a public document.
but didn't you say though that you were waiting back?
I did, that's like, but it was a verbal request. And I just explained what the verbal request was. You know, what information would you like to provide on these things that the people are concerned about?
But those specific questions though that you're asking them,
Well,
and it's
well, I
verbal.
consider them more like categories, but like concerns,
Right.
concerns that people express.
But their response back, how do we know what their response is?
Well, their response would have to be in writing. We were like, weren't you thinking that they were gonna send information or give
Yeah,
us?
what they're going to do is give information that we can distribute to the planning commission, and when we get that, we'll be able to give it to the public.
Okay. Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Shamandera?
Has anybody asked them what the life of that quarry is without getting this extraction approval?
Yeah, they've answered that.
What is it?
Approximately 20 years.
16 to 18 years,
Close
and this
20.
expansion will
Yeah, I heard
give
20.
another
I
4 or
heard
5.
20, Frank.
Pardon?
I
I
heard-
got 3 answers.
I heard
on
20,
that.
Frank. I heard 20 years in the presentation I sat in, out at the quarry.
Unfortunately, it's based on their production level. And if business is good, it's shorter, and if business is not so good, it's longer. They gave us 20 years as an average number for the life of the quarry as it sits now, and potentially up to 6 more years on average with the extension.
Can I
That could
add just
vary.
something to that? Through the reclaiming of the quarry, see, that's another issue. If you look into their whole application and the reclaiming of the quarry, for instance, Glasgow and Montgomeryville they're reclaiming that on the corner of Upper State and Horsham Road there, what have you. The 20 years of the quarry process, yes, if that is the stated amount, but what about, is it another 15 years to reclaim it? The process could go on for years and years and years, but you can't get a straight answer from them. That's the thing. It's like, okay, yeah, you're done mining, but now you got another 15 years or 20 years of filling the hole back in.
Tony, it shouldn't be 20 years, but how can we argue with our M&M experience? That's still sitting there.
And that's another thing too, is M&M made their money off the red stone. Jim Haynes says that nobody wants that red stone. Well, that's not true either, because M&M made their living off that red stone. So, and is that part of the equation too, the 20 years? Who knows? I'd love to get a straight answer. I'd love to ask a few questions for correspondence. It would never happen, but I would love to.
Okay, thanks for your comment.
Bob Rambo, Signature. Mary, if you've talked tonight about process, we're going to follow the process to the letter of the law, because it's so important, because of what H&K could do from a legal viewpoint in the future. They hammered us before for 19 years. Hey.
I think it's more than that.
Well, okay, more than that. Good for your firm. I'm happy for you.
Oh, no, actually, that was referred to a firm in the city.
Well, I'm good, happy for that. We paid for it. My point is, why would you have a verbal request in light of this situation? Why wouldn't you have just put that on your letterhead or from the township, asking them for a response to it versus verbally? That's just inconsistent to me.
I don't see an inconsistency, but I hear what you're saying.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Denise Rogers, 1595 Lower Rockhill Road. Just a statement on that issue. When the survey was sent out for the long-range planning, those questions were worded to enable people to really express their ideas. So I think part of the comments about somehow having something in writing for them, and this could be a good thing or not a good thing. Mary, you probably would know how wording can be very effective and can lead to biased answers. Some of those polls that you get, you think, I can't answer it any other way but the one that they want. So we don't want that to happen. But you know, we've expressed so many ideas here, and there are many details that are very factual that back up a reason, many reasons, not one reason, but many reasons, why this would not be a benefit to our community for a long time. So I don't know that I would encourage, you know, that idea of a written specific question, set of questions, although we did do that. But I think that that enables them also to have these very kind of open-ended answers unless they're pressed further. So I would ask maybe the board to consider our comments and kind of put those into words. As a speech language pathologist, I know how language can change things very easily. So I would hope that you would kind of contain all of the comments and maybe have in your mind some questions that you could ask to further maybe investigate really what they're going for here in the long run. So that's my comment, just to kind of make a preparation for their responses.
I think the planning commission.
Or planning commission.
I was, the
but-
planning commission has expressed those same concerns and wants to ask those, what about the future? I think that's part of what you're doing, isn't it, Chris?
Absolutely.
Because what I found, that one little document that I found from Hilltown, the way that they worded things, left things very open and made it very easy for them to come back. This is their expertise for many, many, many years. And like Mary said, she's an expert in law, and they're an expert in manipulating that law. So I think for us to all be informed as far as those things go, to be able to have enough down on paper for ourselves that we can look and say, oh, wait a minute, we don't want this coming back in 10 years and asking for another 5 acres, this way or that way.
Okay. Mr. Linden.
Robert Linden, 60 Reagan Drive. If what the public desires is all important, then why don't you have a referendum and ask the public or the residents of West Rockhill whether they want this quarry or not?
Because at some point in time, the state legislature determined that the electoral process could not handle all the referendum questions that would get put on the ballot. And there's a lot of court cases, because a lot of municipalities tried to do that in the past. Whenever there was like a really serious question and an elected board didn't know what to do with it, or didn't know how the people felt, and they wanted to fulfill the people's wishes, they would put it on referendums. And the courts ruled that the only items that can go on referendums are items that are specifically authorized by statute. And I have a book of them at the office. I can't recite every one of them, but they're like, if they can go to referendum on incurring debt, they can go to referendum on raising the EIT to provide for open space funds. There's a list of things that you can go to referendum on, and and zoning changes. This kind of thing is just not on the list.
Yes, sir.
Frank Welsh, Lower Rocky Dale Road. Well then, based on what you just said, I can only infer that in the final analysis of the law, whether it's written in constitutional statute or what have you, it does not make the citizen does not have the final determination as a body of the citizenry. Is that accurate?
Yeah, this is a decision that the Board of Supervisors will have to make, but they will
Well,
do it with.
then, but the board supervisors, we just spoke as if they were concerned with having our opinion before they move forward, and that our opinion, we the citizenry, should have a strong effect on their decision.
That was gonna be the second half of my
But then
sentence.
that contradicts that. If they can't have the question brought to referendum, the two, you see what I'm saying there? The two are in contradiction to each other.
I can't explain to you why the courts have said that you can't put things on referendum. I can just tell you that that's what the courts have said. And the Board of Elections is very much aware of that. And in order to put an item on the referendum, you have to adopt an ordinance, you have to submit it to the Board of Elections, and they will not put it on unless it falls in, or they won't put that ballot question on unless it falls in one of those categories.
But in light of what was just, at least to me, overturned, how can I feel confident that these gentlemen are all going to be working on our behalf? I don't have to do something extra, do I?
I think you can ask any one of them, they'll tell you that they feel that's their job.
Well, okay.
We allow, from my perspective, my number one issue is water safety and welfare of people, and we will follow this process.
Okay.
But the process has to be allowed to go through, and the planning commission will hear from the applicant when they come to the planning commission, and then once the planning commission goes through that process, at that time, when a decision is rendered by them, a recommendation, that's when it will come to the board of supervisors. But I think there is, we definitely need to go through the process of hiring our own hydrogeologist to really find out about the water. That's the number one issue that we need to make sure that from the township's perspective, we answer those questions. That's our duty.
I think by hiring our own, we're taking away any bias on either side. Okay? And that's what we need to do. We need to have a clear answer that's coming from someone who has no pro or con from this, gets no pro or con. That's right. That's why I'm saying, and I agree with Jay, we get our own hydrogeologist. My concern is the water, my concern is the land, my concern is the air.
That's it.
Yes, ma'am.
Sarah Welsh, 1580 Lower Rockydale Road. So you're all concerned about our good water. How many wells have to go bad before you really stand up and listen to what these people are saying, that we do have wells that have gone bad? I mean, we had our water tested, it's good. I'm here on behalf of all those people that don't have good drinking water. I can't even imagine what they're going through. I can't imagine.
Well, I can share with you my well. I have a water softener. If I didn't have a water softener and a mineral system, my water would smell like rotten eggs as well. And I live all the way up. I don't live anywhere near the quarry. I'm down at this end of the Ridge Road.
Well, everyone's concerned with the constitutional rights,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
That's where it begins and ends.
So
There's
that's why we
nothing
need to
else
make
more
sure that
important.
we investigate the quality of the water and what the quarry is doing, what the effects that the quarry have had on. We will do that.
Okay, good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, Vera Cole, 245 Upper Rockydale Road. It's not clear to me what questions are unanswered. I mean, we know from their own filings that the quarry, just in the past year, there were 15 wells that they worked on, that they had to repair because of contamination. That's in their own filings. So we know they're contaminating wells, that the quarry operation is contaminating wells. We know that the quarry operation is lowering water levels. We know that wells are running dry. And what other expert information do we need to know that this is an unforced risk to our water supply? I mean, remember, I keep going back to the basic question. That property is currently zoned residential conservation. They're asking us to change the zoning. Why on earth would we consider changing the zoning? We know already what's already happened. And their own records, they tell us what's already happened. They're suggesting more monitoring, more testing for things like arsenic. Why would we even consider? What else, what more do we need a hydrologist to tell us about the risk of water? That's not clear to me.
I try to balance, like, your right to have answers to the questions, like that, which is a legitimate question that you answered, with trying to make sure that the board reviews this in, a manner that can't at any time be argued, that was not fair and forthright. And I'd be happy to talk to you privately about that after the meeting, but I don't want to speak to that in public. But there are answers to the questions that you just asked.
Thank you.
Sorry, we're gonna keep going.
Can you
Trish
stand up,
Hurlinger.
please?
Trish Hurlinger, 410 Thousand Acre Road. I think the old arguments exist, the water, the noise, that's always gonna be here, the quarry is here. We need to keep it contained and not to allow them to migrate. It's not just all those old issues. It's not 1992. We are eco-friendly. We are, all the things we talked about. The James Barn across the street, historical. We want to maintain that. The beautiful farm down the road on Ridge Road, all organic. we need to maintain that. If the quarry does get inch their way, which this is what they're trying to do, because I don't understand how 10 acres is that important to them. 10 acres, when they have 20 years with where they are right now, keeping them contained. Those 10 acres will destroy the homes on Shady Lane, which then the quarry will buy, which then that road will be closed, which was a beautiful stone road that had a beautiful historical farm on it. And those little increments that they have taken, putting aside, I mean, all those other, the water, the pollution, that's, quarries have it, that's the way it is. Quarry has, those are all legitimate, but this isn't that environment anymore. We're trying to maintain, conserve, keep our water clean without them being able to migrate. They're like poison ivy. You gotta just keep killing that weed and keep it in there. They have 20 years. We took one for the team. The township, it's here. We can't change it, but we can maintain what they have and what we allow them to do. So we're just asking that you keep it that way. Let's keep this beautiful barn. I'm glad they didn't get the property across the street because that barn would have been long gone. That's, Shady Lane will be closed down. I mean, just so those 10 acres, I mean, our property's right there. They're gonna come knocking on my door. We're gonna buy your home. Well, geez, if everybody just keeps doing that, soon they're gonna own 1,000 Acre Road. It's gotta stop. And those 20 years isn't gonna that's gonna be like everyone was saying, it's gonna be more than 20 years. So those 10 reasons, there are 10 reasons why, we all know them, the water, the air pollution, but we need to contain them and keep this environment. And all this stuff that we talked about all night long, about the water pollution, I mean, just all the things that everybody is doing here to keep it green, keep everything eco-friendly. I mean, open space, all those things are so positive. Organic farmers. We have a daycare here. I mean, it's just all positive things that we need to continue to have in our community. And that's all. I think it's not just the complaints that you're saying, the water, the air. Those are all old. Those are things they've heard 100 million times. They hear them in their sleep. This goes above and beyond those things. That do mean a lot. But we just have to keep our area clean as possible for our kids.
Okay, thank you. All right, with that, yes?
We'll do an advertisement, if you don't mind, real quick. If you want to see the videos, Mr. Linden here, his is at Pennridge.buzz.
.buzz.
.buzz on YouTube. Mine is at PTG space Penn Tax Group. And again, that's a channel on YouTube. If you want to come and give me your email address, I'll send you a link. I probably will get it up either tonight or tomorrow night. It went a little bit long. I've got 3 segments here. So anyway, I'm happy to send you a link if you'll give me your email address, and then you can share it with the friends that maybe couldn't be here, or you can just keep it and review it if you'd like to, make sure you know who said what. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, I will entertain a motion. Seeing there's no other public comment, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment into executive session. Motion's been made. Second? Second. All those signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for giving your input.